Hello friends, I am Dr. Shweta Sethi, Professor, Himalayan School of Management Studies, Swami Rama Himalayan University. Today we are going to discuss a very pertinent topic, the trade unions in transition, which will be covering the introduction part of the trade unions, the challenges faced by the trade union movement in India, where do we stand now, and the future ahead for the trade unions. So, in the part 1 video, we are going to have a discussion on the introduction to the trade unions. So, this is the introductory session on the trade unions. The agenda of this video is introduction to the trade unions. Second is the purpose of formation of the unions. And third, we will be discussing about the various functions laid down for the trade unions in India. See, prior to 20th century, the trade union activities were considered unlawful. So, associating and forming a trade union was not having a legal compliance. But in 1920, Madras, the leaders of trade union of Binion Corporation, they were imprisoned for bona fide trade union activities. And this was a turning point where the British government, because they never wanted the workers to associate and have a uniform voice against the management. So, to protect the workers, and I should say not their main motive was not protection, but was so that people do not raise voice against the management, they don't go for agitation. So, the Trade Union Act 1926 was enacted, and it came into force with effect from 1st June 1927. So, this was the Trade Union Law 1926 that came, 27 it came into the force. This Trade Union Act 1926, it applies only to those unions which are registered under it. And the way of registration has been laid down by the Trade Union Act 1926, where the trade unions have to approach the registrar and get their trade unions registered. But it does not mean that only the registered trade unions are existing. There are so many unions in India in the industrial establishments where they are not registered, but forming or associating as a trade union is a freedom given even to the non-registered trade unions. But here I am talking about that the Trade Union Act 1926, the sections that have been given by this act, they apply only to those unions which are registered under it. The act extends to the whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, let us talk about the purpose of trade unions. When the Trade Union Act 1926 was enacted, it was enacted for the very special reason that what will be the purpose of these trade unions. So, what are trade unions? Trade unions are the association of workers in a trade where they can have a voice with the management on the part of the workers. If they feel that they are feeling exploited or they want to have certain demands for the working conditions and all. So, this is the forum that is joining the trade unions. So, what is the purpose of the trade unions? Number one purpose is advocacy. Who will advocate, who will act as an advocate of the workers? So, the trade unions were formed for the advocacy role. Second is representation. Who will represent the working class before the management? If you have a charter of demands, if you have any discussions, if you want any sort of amendments in your working conditions or the way the work is being done or any other demands related to the working in the establishment, who will be the representative class of the workers? So, it is again the trade unions. Third is collective bargaining. Now, what is collective bargaining? There is one is we already know the term bargaining, that is negotiation. So, one is individual when there is one-on-one bargaining. Here I am talking about the collective bargaining. Collective bargaining means that collectively you have a set of people on one side and a set of people on the other side who collectively negotiate on the issues of common interest to both. Common interest, but they are in a conflict. So collective bargaining, on one side we have, this is bipartite. So one party is the set of representatives from the worker side, and on the other side we have the set of representatives from the management side, and they sit together, they negotiate on a bargaining table on the issues of common and conflicting interest to both. The fourth point, the purpose of trade unions is they were being formed for improving the levels of production and productivity, the discipline and high standards of quality. So the trade unions were formed for advocacy, representation, collective bargaining, and also that they can help the management in improving the levels of production and productivity, in enforcing the discipline amongst the workers, and maintaining the high standards of quality in the establishment. So as we have discussed the purpose, now we can see that the functions of trade unions, they are divided in two parts. One is the militant function and the other is the fraternal function. When I talk of militant function means that acting as a voice of workers to negotiate with the management, and negotiating or putting the charter of demands, raising a voice against the exploitation of the workers. So this comes under the militancy function. Like for example, to achieve the higher wages and better working conditions for the workers. Second example can be to raise the status of workers as a part of the industry. The third can be to protect the labor against the victimization and the injustice. If there is any sort of victimization or injustice, or the trade union feels that the management is not complying by the labor laws and is going for illegal deduction of wages, or is not providing the minimum wages, or is not complying with the labor laws which is leading to the exploitation of the workers, so they can raise a voice, act as a military, and put across their charter of demands before the management. So this is the militancy function. But the second part is the fraternal function, that is the welfare function. That is, they are not being formed by the Trade Union Act only to put forth the charter of demands and act the militancy role, but also the fraternal role, which is like to take up the welfare measures for improving the morale of the workers, to encourage the sincerity and discipline amongst the workers, to provide the opportunities for promotion and growth. A very good example of it is that digitalization is in the forefront, and most of the industries today, they are getting digitalized, and the way of work that was done earlier, the way is going to change. So this is something, an opportunity before the in front of the trade unions, that they can motivate or they can demand the digital training for their workers before the management. Then is to protect the women workers against the discrimination. So these are all the fraternal functions. Now if I put together these two things, we have seen that the functions laid down by the Trade Unions Act 1926 is into two categories. One is the militant and the other is the fraternal functions. Together, this was the role that was being assigned to the trade unions as per the Trade Union Act 1926. So thank you so much. I hope that you found this video useful. Have a nice day.